to Screencast 18 for the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland Introduction to Vectorworks. In this screencast we'll be introducing sheet layers and viewports, which are two critically important things to understand. It is essentially the way that Vectorworks functions, in the fact that we will draw something in our design layer and then we will present that drawing on a sheet layer by using things called viewports, which have scale. So getting the idea between design layers, sheet layers and viewports, and the relationship between those three things is critical. We'll be using the same drawing as we've been using with your name in the colored letters as a way of presenting this on our sheet layer. So our sheet layers have a actual size. They are normally A4, A3, A2, A1. They are known dimensions in the UK. So we will create a sheet layer which is a known size. We'll be going to using an A4 one just now, just because it keeps things nice and small. We can print A4 and A3 on the domestic printers in the offices, and then up to A0 on the plotter up in Wallace Studios. These letters, when we draw in the design layer, these letters could have been 10 miles high, they could have been 10 millimeters high. It doesn't really matter in the design layer, but when we come to place them on the sheet layer, scale will be critically important, because we want the letters nice and big on the sheet layer. So the sheet layer is the first thing that we're going to create, and then we're going to have a look at things called viewports. So we're going to go to Tools, Organization. Sorry, it was a bit fast there. Tools, Organization, and then we can see this thing here, this new window that's popped up. So we have classes, design layers, stories, sheet layers, viewports, saved views and references. We will use all these, maybe not stories so much, but we use all these eventually. But at the moment, sheet layers is what I am kind of interested in. So in the sheet layers tab, there are no sheet layers. So I am going to create a new sheet layer, and it's got a number. I'm going to call it my name, and then edit properties after creation is critical, because I'm creating a sheet layer but I haven't told it its size yet, and the size of the piece of paper, whether it be printed or PDF, is critically important. So I'm going to OK that. Sheet 1, sheet title, stacking order isn't critically important at the moment. Rendering may be important. We'll come back to that in a little bit. I won't do it now because I want to show you what happens if you don't change that, but just leave it for the moment. And then we're going to page setup. So the page setup, don't need to see watermarks, and then we're going to choose. So this relationship here, choose size unavailable in printer setup. If I want to choose something that my printer, my home domestic printer, can't do, I will need to choose that. So printer setup here at the moment, I've only got a home domestic office jet there. Paper size is in US at the moment, so we'll go back to A4, UK A4. So office jet, A4. I'm going to do it in landscape because my name is written in landscape rather than portrait. I'm going to leave scaling, OK, and then I'm going to tick that and just allow it to do one printer page. The only thing I would say to avoid is to avoid choosing A4 here and A4 in the printer. Let one of these two boxes do the work. If I can set this size in the printer, I'll set it in the printer and leave that to one printer page. If I can't, I'll set that to A0 or A1 or something like that and ignore the printer setup. Just avoid having the same thing in both boxes there, because sometimes it can print 3 or 4 blank pages, just because of the different printers have different abilities to print the width and height of a sheet of A3 or A4. So sometimes Vectorworks gives it instructions and it can't do that, so it prints out an extra 3 blank pages as it tries to do the extra millimeter around the outside. Anyway, just trust me on this one. If you're going to use the printer, which is connected to your computer to define the size of the page, then put that on one printer page. If you're going to export it to a PDF even, I could set this to A1 at the moment, and then rather than printing it, I'd export to PDF later on, and that would give me a scaled PDF which I can send to somebody. Anyway, so we'll leave that just now. Okay, 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 and then it seems like all our work has vanished. That's fine. It hasn't, it's just that I'm looking at the sheet layer at the moment, which has nothing on it at the moment. If I scroll out a little bit, we can kind of see this page here. Let's go back to the design layer. So down in the navigation classes, we could go back to the tools organization and go back to a design layer, but get into the habit of looking down here. So we have classes, design layers, sheet layers down here. If I click on design layer and put a little tick next to the design layer, that's me making the design layer 1 active again. So that's where I want to be. And if I want to go to the sheet layer, click on that, on sheet layers, put a little tick there, and I go back to the sheet layer. Again, it's always zooming me in. I'm going to go back to the design layer again, and I'm going to view, create viewport. So it's one of the letters must be selected, so I'm going to make sure nothing's selected and do that again. If that happens, just do exactly the same as I've done there. View, create viewport, and this time it won't give me that there's a selected object, you want to use it as a crop. So when I create the viewport, I'm going to, this is personal preference at the moment, I'm going to leave these for the moment, but only for this this screencast. In the future we're going to uncheck these, but at the moment I'm going to do this so that we can see some information. The general settings, it's going to create on the layer sheet 1, which is the only sheet layer we have. If you had multiple sheet layers, I'd be able to send it to a different sheet layer there, or even create a new sheet layer there. Although at the moment, let's do it the way that I'm showing you to do it rather than shortcutting here. It's going to create a drawing label, which I wouldn't normally use, but I'm going to do it here just to let you see some information. And the scale here is critically important. So remember when I said the letters in the design layer could be anything. They could be 10-mile high letters, or they could be 10 millimeters. The scale here, which will fit on a sheet of A4 paper, is critical. So I'm going to leave it at 1:25. It's editable, so if I get this wrong, then I can change this in the object information palette. So I'm going to try and put it on the A4 page at 1:25. Probably could go a little bigger, but we'll see. The view is the top plan. It's 2-dimensional objects, so I only really have top plan, rendering, wireframe, and so we're going to just leave these display settings as it is, and I'm going to click OK. Now that's placed my letters onto the sheet layer. I am now in the sheet layer. We can see that the little tick has vanished from the design layer there, and if I click on sheet layer, there's a little tick in there. I'm in the sheet layer there, of which there is a photograph, if you like, of my design layer object with a scale of 1:25, and this data thing that I don't normally leave on, but it's useful at the moment, is a 1:25. I'm going to go back to the design layer again just to show you something and say, let's create another viewport. View, create viewport. We're going to create it on sheet 1. It's going to be drawing number 2. I'm going to give it a different scale. Let's give it a 1:50, just for demonstration purposes. And then I'm going to place that onto the design layer. So we've now got the drawing itself. Obviously the S's are exactly the same size. It hasn't changed, but I'm seeing that drawing in 2 different scales, 1:1:25 and 1:1:50, and there is only one design layer of one drawing. Okay, nothing changes here. It's just that I am seeing it twice. I have a sheet layer with 2 viewports on it. Now, that's super important. Just pause for a second and get your head around that. That's a sheet layer there, A4 size, of which I have 2 viewports of my singular drawing in the design layer. One of them is 1:25 and one of them is 1:50. I could have a number of these. I can just duplicate that and I've got another one there. If I want to edit that size there, 1:50, let's change that to 1:10. Be huge. It's probably a little big. Let's not do 1:10. Let's do a custom size even, 1:20. So I've got 3. I've got 1:25, 1:20, and 1:50. So we can make custom scales in there. 1:25, 1:25, 1:50 are fairly common. 1:25 being the kind of the go-to for metric work in the UK. So what I want to do now is to dimension. So it might be a slightly long podcast here. I'm going to do no, let's do dimensions in the next tutorial. All I want to show you here, yes, I've decided that. All I want to show you here was the idea about a sheet layer, and we can have as many of these viewports on the sheet layer. So one sheet layer there, A4, 3 different scaled viewports. So how we see the information on the sheet layer is determined by the scale of the viewports. Do another, just one more, and we'll do a even smaller one than that. That was 1 to, what was it? 1 to 100. We'll do a tiny little one. Put that one up there. Okay, so we've got 1 to 100, 1 to 25, 1 to 20, 1 to 50, and in the design layer, there still are only the letters that we did. I haven't changed anything in there at all. We're just looking at them in lots of different scales. Then we'll do dimensioning in the next tutorial because it will be too long to carry on here. If we exported this just now without putting dimensions on it, it wouldn't be great. But if I did file export to PDF there, someone could take a scale ruler and measure on these viewports using the correct scale on each one and find out the size and width of the letters. Hope that makes sense. See you in the next one for dimensioning. We'll be carrying on from here.